There is only one perfect solution, but there are clues that will try to trick our team.
Hello there, everyone. My name is Crazy Caleb, and today, with a series of Hitmans back again, we're going to be taking a look at Forget Infinity. So this is the way the module looks. It's got a green background with a normal silver border, and it's got this little text that displays the number of stages on the right side and the stage that we're currently on the left side right here. This number on the right side can generate a random number of stages between the number of modules on the bottom. If it happens to be less than 3, which is what it requires for the end, I'll explain what that means later. It will just simply condense that. I'll explain what that means later on, but in this case, we're going to be solving 6 modules to get 6 different stages, which we're going to be potentially doing calculations for each of them. So let's actually start solving the module, and let's get into this thing. Each of the stages that you're going to get is a 5-digit code relevant for that stage. That class lead. And just like here, we have 16122. Now that little timer that you see that was counting down right there is a little bit of how do I describe it? It's sort of like a cooldown to if you happen to be solving modules fast enough. For example, on Twitch plays, it gives you enough time to get the stage down before it changes to the next one. So. But we're going to ignore that for now. It's very rare that you happen to be doing that. It's just simply sort of like a fail-safe if you happen to miss a stage, or if you happen to solve stuff too fast, you can still briefly glance at it, get it down, and you should be good to go. So 16122. We'll get into the work after we solve all the modules, or until we get past all these stages. I'm still just going to solve all the Hitman because it doesn't really matter. If you happen to solve stuff after it hits the stage counter mark, it doesn't strike at all. It just matters. It just only counts 6 stages. So let's move on to the next one. So we have Miranda Jameson. Our next stage is going to be 68916. Next up, whenever the lights decide to turn back on. Wow, we have 2 Jimmy Chens. Okay. All right. We have 69327. So that's our third stage. Next up, we have Jimmy Chen again. We have 77083. We have Juan Shaw. We have 98300. Okay. And then for our last stage that we're going to get Akram. We're going to get 84564. All right, and now that we've reached stage 6 out of 6, the next solve will put us into a sort of submission phase. What's going to happen? Let's solve this one right here. Solve Rethak. What's going to happen is 3 different stages are going to be input on the top of the module in here, and what that means is after a series of calculations, each 3 of these guys from those stages have to be inputted into here. They will always be 5 digits long. There will always be leading zeros if it happens to be a case where first number is 0. There will always be that present. However, it is important to note that while it does say 5, 3, and 6, the order of which you submit them in is actually not relevant. As long as you submit them in correctly, one of the answers correctly, it will sort of glitch out for that answer if it's correct. And I'll show you what that means later on. But for the time being, we're only going to actually focus on 3 stages, and this will always be the case no matter what size bomb it is, no matter where it's at. It will always be 3 stages, and we actually don't have to pay attention to any of the other stages present. So we're going to be taking a look at 3, 5, and 6. So let's pop this up, since we don't need to look at the actual module anymore. But first things first, before we actually continue on, a couple of rules have to do with edge work, so let's actually get edge work present on the bottom. We have no batteries. We have a lit car. I'm going to write this down below. Lit car. Let's just change this back to what we were before. Unlit NSA and a lit IND. Unlit IND. And next up, we have plate RCA and plate PS2. Or plate RCA, plate RJ and RCA. What am I talking about? And lastly, a serial number. I do have bomb name widgets on. Those aren't relevant to anything that we have on this module, so you simply have to ignore those. As far as I'm aware, actually, bomb names don't have any manuals present, any manuals relevant to that actual widget. It's simply just a modded widget that can take up modded slots. Word of advice. But our serial number is 9 Papa 1, Bravo Papa 1. So we're going to save that for later. And I'm going to just solve the rest of the Hitmans real quick, just to get them out of the way. Ezra Berg. And as I said before, solving a module after the stages generate does not give you a strike, so you're good to go. You can simply solve it whenever now. We have Roman Kapkov and Dorsley. Alright, so now that we've done all the rest of the modules, let's simply focus on this module here. So we have 6 stages. We're only going to be focusing on 3, so that's nice that we get to eliminate half of the work. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to copy each of these guys again, and I'm just going to put it right next to it. And you'll understand in just a moment what I mean by that. Because there is a lot of rules present in this manual that have to do with original digits from specific slots. For example here, take the original digit in this slot and add 7, and then replace the first value with that result. What that refers to is after all of these calculations, because there's a calculations for all digits present, you have to do some calculations for each individual digit. So what we're going to go through first is we're going to go through this from top to bottom. We're going to do calculations for all digits, then first digit, then second digit, then third digit, then fourth digit, and then fifth digit. And we'll get into all of that in just a moment. So let's start off with all digits. So the original digit is in the given stage refers to the digit that is in the stage before the modifications took effect, as I just mentioned. We're going to be doing a series of modifications, and we're going to look at that later. So after all of the calculations, if the value is less than 0 for the given digit, keep adding 10 until it isn't. Then take the least significant digit in each value and input them. So if it's less than 0, we're going to add 10, which in this case actually just simply means mod 10. It's not absolute value, it's simply just modulo 10. And then we're going to take least significant bit, which is simply just mod 10. And if there are no digits in the serial number, we're going to use 0 for any rules that need serial number digits. That's with modded serial numbers. There will always be at least 2 serial number digits present. So just a word for the wise. So we're going to take a look at calculations for all digits present here. So the first one that we're going to take a look at is if there is a stereo RCA port, we're going to swap the first digit of the code with the 5th digit and the second digit with the 4th digit. So we do actually have a stereo RCA present on the BOM. So we're going to be swapping the first with the 5th and the second with the 4th, or essentially just flipping it. The third will stay the same as you would expect. And yeah, let's do that for each individual one. So the 7 and the 6 are going to swap here. So 7 and 6. Then the 2 and the 9, leaving the 3 in the center. For stage 5, we're going to do swapping 9 and 0. And then we're going to swap 8 and 0 here. Then we're going to do 8 and 4 for you. And then 6 and 4 for the second and fourth here. And just like that, that rule is done. If the BOM has batteries, add the number of batteries to each digit of the code. Now, for the next bit, I'm going to simply space out all of these guys here. However, we actually don't have any batteries present, so we're actually good to go. We don't need to add anything to it. And this is not, and for the calculations for all digits, these are not otherwise conditions. Each rule you have to check if it actually applies or not. But for first digit calculations, there are otherwise conditions, so make sure you read that very carefully. If the BOM serial number contains the characters Foxtrot or India. Looking at the serial number, we do not have a Foxtrot or an India. Nope. What we would do for that one is we would subtract the number of letters in the serial number from each digit. If that happened to apply in this case, we would simply do 3 letters, so we subtract 3 from each one. But that obviously doesn't apply. And now, each of the 5 digits now calculated will be used as the respective values for the next set of calculations. The digits can be higher than 9 or less than 0 at the end of calculations for all digits. That's where this whole thing is important after all calculations, which means if it happens to go over, for example, the 7, you have to add a 4 for some reason. If it goes over to 11, we're going to leave that as 11 until everything is said and done. So it's back to 7. Let's actually space this guy out too. Alright, and now let's get to work. So for the first digit calculations, we're going to grab the reverse value from the previous calculation for all digits. So for the first value is going to be 7, this one's going to be 0, and this one's going to be 4. Since we did the swapping from before, that's what we're looking at. So if needy Tetris is present, take the original digit in the slot, add 7, and then replace the first value with that result. However, I did not put any needies on here. It's very rare that you actually see needy Tetris present. So just that's a word for the wise. It's very rare because Tetris is not that great of a needy. It's very tricky, mind you. But people play with it, so just pay attention to that rule. Otherwise, if the first value is at least 10, and that value is divisible by 2, have that value. Taking a look here, 7, nope, 0, nope, and 4, no. This 0 does not mean 10, this simply means 0. So none of those rules apply. Otherwise, if the first value is less than 5, add the last digit of the serial number. Now, this doesn't apply for the 7, but this does apply for the 0 and the 4 for 5 and 6. So we're going to add the last digit of the serial number, which is a 1. Conveniently enough, we're going to otherwise add 1 for the next rule. So actually, we're going to add 1 for all of these guys here, because these two correspond to being less than 5. So we're going to add 1 to 0 and 1 to 4 being 5. And then we're simply going to add 1 because it's the last condition for the first digit calculations. So 7 is going to become 8. And now we're done with the first digit. Moving on to the second digit. We're going to grab the second value, so we've already done that here. And if there are duplicate ports on the BOM, we're going to add the number of duplicate port types on the BOM. We actually don't have any duplicate ports present. We have an RJ and an RCA. Both of those are on their own. And those are actually the only 2 ports that we have present. Otherwise, if there are no ports present on the BOM, we're going to add the sum of the third and first original digits. If we happen to have that rule be true, for example, on the stage 5, we would simply be adding 3 and 9 to this 0 here. This is why it's important that you make sure you differentiate from modified digits that we're currently working with here on the right side, and original digits on the left side. So that's what's important about making sure that you differentiate from original digits to modified digits. And then otherwise, we're going to simply add the number of ports. So we're going to be adding 2 to each number in the second digit, because we haven't done any modifications to any of these guys so far. So 2 plus 2 becomes 4 for stage 3. 0 plus 2 becomes 2 for stage 5. And 6 plus 2 becomes 8 for stage 6. All right, moving on down to the third digit here. Now this one's a little bit weird. So we're going to take a look here. Grab the third value, of course. If other digits were swapped before, don't modify the third value. Now, this is very important because we actually did swap the first and fifth and the second and fourth. So we actually did do swaps present from before. We actually did do some swaps before. So what this actually means is if other digits were swapped, which they were, we're not going to modify the third value. So we're going to leave the third value alone. 3 stays to 3, the 3 stays to 3, and the 5 stays to 5. However, I want to cover the actual rules that correspond to each of these values. If there weren't any swaps beforehand, we would have to take a look at these few rules here. Otherwise, we're going to replace the third digit with the sum of the binary digits in the third original digit if the third value is greater than or equal to 7, the absolute value of the third value, if the third value is less than 3, or the third digit original, digit plus the smallest number in the serial number otherwise. So let's take the first example here. So if the sum of the binary digits in the third digit original digit, if the third value is greater than or equal to 7. So if we happen to have a value that was equal to 8 and our original digit in the third position was a 3, for example, what we would do is we would get the sum of the binary digits in 3, which if we make binary for 3, spread this out. 3 in binary would be in the simplest form, and the best way to visualize it would be 0, 1, 1. This being 2 to the power of 1, and this being 2 to the power of 0, which is just 1 plus 2, giving us 3. What this would add up to is each of the individual 1s would simply add up to 2. And that answer would be 2. We would replace this 8 with a 2. It's very similar to skew slots, if those of you who aren't familiar with that. It has a rule that's very similar to that in the third slot, ironically enough. So that's the way that works. Otherwise, if the value of the third is less than 3, we're simply just going to do the absolute value of that. So if that's in case you have a negative, for example, -2, or just simply +2, that would equal 2 for that case. Or lastly, the third original digit, if that happens to not be the case, the third original digit plus the smallest digit in the serial number, any number that is 3 or greater, and between 3 and 6, we would simply add the third original digit plus 1 being our last digit of the serial number. However, we don't have to do any of that work at all because we happen to have the other digits swapped beforehand. So that's perfect. Now we're going to take a look at the fourth digit. We're going to grab the fourth value from the previous calculation for all digits. If the value is less than 0, none of these guys are less than 0, so thankfully enough, we would simply add the largest digit in the serial number, which would be a 9 in this case. If there are 5 or fewer stages that were generated, no, we had 6 stages generated, thankfully. We would simply not modify the fourth value at all, if that happened to be the case. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to do 18 minus the current fourth value that we have. So 18 minus the one that we have here for stage 3, 18 minus 9 will give us 9. And if I can check that by popping on the handy dandy calculator, 18 minus 9 will give us 9. And let's do the same for the rest of the ones here. So we have 18 minus 8 will give us 10. And we're going to put that down as 10. And lastly, 18 minus 4 is going to give us 14. Not 41, 14, please. All right, and now that fourth digit is done. And lastly, the fifth digit, let's take a look here. So we're going to grab the fifth value from the previous calculation for all digits, and we're going to go through the table underneath to get the digit input to input based on the conditions. So now, let's take a look at some simple rules here. So the first digit of the serial number is going to be the column that we're going to look at. So the first digit is going to be a 9 right here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do the fifth value that we currently have. So this first one is going to be 6, and we're going to modulo this by 5 until it gets in the range of 0 through 4, or if it happens to be already below 5, simply check if it's 0 through 4. And that's going to correspond to the row. So now, our first digit that we have for number 5 is going to be 6. 6 modulo 5, for those of you who aren't familiar with modulo, we're going to simply input 6, and we're going to subtract 5 until it's lower than 5, which is going to be a 1. And what this 1 is going to give us is it's going to give us a 9. Now, do you add this? No. What you must do is you simply replace the 6 with a 9. That's what you do. Now, for some of these cases, if you look here, we have an O with an exclamation mark. What this refers to is the original digit in the fifth slot, not to be confused with 0, which is just it's by itself. I don't want the weather. The only times that you ever see this is going to be right here in row 4. And over here in 0 and 0,1. Now, there are cases where the original digit plus 1, what you do is you simply add the original digit that you had. For example, this 4 right here, you would simply add 4 plus 1, which would give you 5, and you'd replace that spot for the fifth digit with 5. So let's move on to the next one. So we have 9 for our value. So we're going to do 9 modulo 5 to give us a row of 4. Which is going to correspond to 2. We're going to replace that 9 with a 2. Very simple. And lastly, we're going to take a look at 8. 8 modulo 5 is going to give us 3. The 3 is going to be our row. And we're going to replace the 8 with 7. And just like that, after all of our calculations have been done, let's simply modulo all of these guys by 10 or take their least significant digit. So let's do that for the 10 and the 0 we have here. So let's get rid of the 1. Let's get rid of the 1. And just like that, we're going to submit these 3 numbers in any order into the module. So for example, it says 5 on the left. However, let's submit 3 into the module. So we're going to do 843, 99. And just like that, the way that you know that is correct is because of the fact that it actually glitches out. If you happen to submit one thing wrong, so for example, let's do stage 5, let's do 122, for example, if I do that on accident, 02. It immediately lets you know that it was a strike once you input the module. And this is simply just a get rid of like a delete button. So we're going to do 123, 02, and that's going to be marked as glitching now. And then lastly, 585, 47. And if you do happen to strike at all, it doesn't regenerate stages, as you can obviously tell. It just simply marks you as wrong. So thankfully, that's really nice. So, and then we're going to submit 585, 47. Just like that, the module solves. All the stages disappear. And just like that, your work is done. Let's take a look at one final example. This module is pretty straightforward with how the rules work, and a lot of the work actually can be condensed. It's very similar to FT, however, it's a little bit longer on the expert side. Let's take a look at one final example, and I'll show you what I mean by the actual amount of stages that you can receive is completely random. Is this Skewed Slots 2.0? Certainly doesn't smell like one, especially what happened last time. Yeah, it definitely does give me Skewed Slots vibes. Let's take a look at one final example. Because this module itself is not too bad to learn. It's really, really not that bad. So let's take a look. Let's pop it up here. All right. Good infinity. And now, taking a look here, we actually have 4 stages this time around. So we actually will be potentially having a rule here for the 4th digit. We're going to have 5 or fewer stages, so that's actually going to be really nice. So let's actually get into the module. So let's get rid of all of these guys. We have Gabriel Santos. So we have 92468. Agent Price. And we have 34464. Wow, they're really giving me the answers this one. Then we have 65294. Let's get rid of you. It's your Dorian Lang. And our last stage will be 23150. I'm just going to finish up the rest of the bomb, because why not? Where are you? Andre Martinez. Lom Kwai, no. Come on, lights. Anytime now. Zone. Oh, I should know this guy. Brendan Connor, yep. And then you're one of the agents. Tremaine? I want to say you're Tremaine. Yeah, you gotta be Tremaine. Yep. Alright, so now we're gonna be taking a look here. Let's get our edge work after we shut the alarm clock here. So we have the edge work of, we have 2 and 1. Now we actually do have batteries, so that's gonna be a different rule this time around. We have lit car, unlit sig. And that's going to be it for those. And we have plate, PS2, and DVI. Now, let's take a look here. So we're going to pump this up here. And we're going to be taking a look at 4, 2, and 1. So we're simply going to be ignoring 3. Alright, let's take a look. So, starting with the calculations for all digits, we do not actually have a stereo RCA this time around. Wait, let me get the serial number too. Victor Quebec 5, Charlie Echo 4. Victor Quebec 5, that's not what I wanted to zoom out. Victor Quebec 5, Charlie Echo 4. Make sure I got that right. Yep. Alright. And now, we don't actually have a stereo RCA present, so we're not going to be swapping the first and the fifth, and the second and the fourth. However, the bomb has batteries, so we're actually going to be taking a look, and we're going to be adding the number of batteries to each digit of the code. So let's actually split this up. So we have 9, 2, 4, 6, 8. We have 3, 4, 4, 6, 4, and we have 2, 3, 1, 5, 0. All right. So at the number of batteries, so we have 2 batteries currently on the bomb. So we're going to be adding the number of batteries to each individual digit of the code. So 9 plus 2 is 11, 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 2 is 6, 6 plus 2 is 8, and 8 plus 2 is 10. Then we have 3 plus 2 is 5, then 6, then 6, then 8, then 6, then 4, then 5, then 3, then 7, then 2. Alright, so now that all the batteries have been added, let's take a look at the next one. We don't have the characters F or I in the serial number. We're not going to be adding the number of letters in the serial number, so we're going to continue on to the digit calculations. The first digit, we don't have need to Tetris. However, we do have the first value that is at least 10. However, it is not divisible by 2. 11 is not divisible by 2. It's not an even number, so we're actually not going to be doing that rule. If the number is less than 5, we're going to add the last digit of the serial number. That corresponds to this 4 right here. It is less than 5, so we're going to add 4. So 4 plus 4 is going to give us 8. We're not going to use that digit for the next rule, which is going to be add 1 to these other two guys here. So 5 plus 1 is 6, and 11 plus 1 is going to be 12. Alright, moving on to the second digit. So we're going to take a look here. If there are duplicate ports present, nope. Ports, nope. We're going to add the number of ports to each individual digit in the second position. So we have 2 ports again, so we're going to be adding 2. So 4 plus 2 is going to be 6, 6 plus 2 is going to be 8, and 5 plus 2 is going to be 7. Alright, now the third digit. Now, this is going to be a huge difference here, because of the fact that we did not swap any digits beforehand, so we're actually going to be modifying the third value this time around. So we're going to be replacing the third digit with some sort of value. So if the third value is greater than or equal to 7, taking a look here, none of them are, so that's actually perfect. So we have 6, and we have 3, so none of them are greater than or equal to 7. Otherwise, we're going to be replacing them with the absolute value of the third value if the third value is less than 3. None of them are less than 3. We have one that's equal to 3, but it doesn't want us to be equal to. It wants us to simply be less than 3. Otherwise, the third digit, the third original digit plus the smallest digit in the serial number is what we're going to be replacing with. So the smallest digit in the serial happens to be the last, so it's going to be 4. So we're going to take a look at the original digit from here, which happens to be a 4. So we're going to add 4 plus 4 for the first stage, and that's going to be 8. So we're going to replace this guy with 8. We're going to do the same thing here. 4 plus 4 is 8, happens to be the exact same. And then we're going to do the original digit for stage 4 is going to be a 1. 1 plus 4 is going to be 5. So we're going to be replacing this 3 with a 5. And just like that, stage 3 is done. Next up, the 4th digit calculations. If the value is less than 0, we actually don't have any values that are less than 0. However, 5 or fewer stages were generated, so we're actually not going to be modifying the 4th value at all. So this 8th, this 8, and the 7 are going to stay the exact same. And finally, for the 5th stage, we're going to be doing the modulo of 5 to determine the row, and our first digit of the serial number is a 5, so this will be our column. All right, so let's figure out. So 10 modulo 5 is going to be 5, then 0, so it's going to be replaced with a 2. 10 is going to be replaced with a 2. 6 mod 5 is going to be 1. That's going to be replaced with a 7. All right, and then number 2. 2 here, 2 mod 2 is going to be a 2 in this case. And taking a look here, remember that the O with an exclamation mark represents the original digit. So this is exactly what I mean. This is one of the formulas that we're going to be taking a look at, which is going to be 9 minus the original digit. The original digit in the 5th slot of number 4 corresponds to 0. So it's going to be replaced with 9 minus 0, which is 9. So we're going to replace the 5th digit, the 5th slot, with 9 due to that rule. Alrighty, and let's take a look here. So now let's input all of these guys into the module in any order, as long as you input them correctly. We're going to modulo all of these by 10, and just like that, this is what we're going to be submitting into the module. So we have 2, 6, 8, 8, 2. Number 1 is happy. Next up for number 2 is going to be 6, 8, 8, 8, 7. Number 2 is happy. And lastly for number 4, 8, 7, 5, 7, and lastly 9. And number 4 is happy, and just like that is the solved module. As always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.